what Trump promised is exactly what is taking place. So we're seeing more military processions invade most locations in the Northeast. Ali Ndume is calling on President Donald Trump to be swift, precise, and target the hotbed, that is, locations well known for terrorist onslaughts. So, what is the latest information that we know? Well, U.S. resumes intelligence flights over Nigeria after ISIS strikes in Sokoto. The United States resumed intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance operations over Nigeria on Saturday after carrying out airstrikes against terrorists in Sokoto State. Flight tracking data and terrorism analysts recently disclosed. Now, Brand Philip, who is a Sahel-based terrorist tracker, shared flight data showing Gulfstream V aircraft, a long-range business jet often modified for intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance missions flying over Borno State. Philip said that the operations, which was today, because the flight that was going through doing it's usually called aviation mapping, right? Along those hotspots, these locations. So the flight tracking information indicated that U.S. began intelligence flights over Nigeria on November 24, and after the aircraft took off from Ghana, where a logistical hub for the American military in Africa. So in Ghana, it's a major logistical hub for American military in Ghana. Nigeria has not really been able to have that major establishment yet. But the intelligence flights over Nigeria will resume shortly after Malam Nuhu Ribadu, Nigeria's national security advisor, with Pete Hegseth, U.S. Defense Secretary, they met in Washington. And this just happened on Christmas Day after the first bombing that took place. Well, some Nigerians said that the bombing did not literally hit any location whatsoever. It did not affect any hotspot. But there were 6 locations where that bomb took place, like 6 locations. Intelligence gathering is still unfolding, and a couple of, will I say, information gathering, obviously, with the Nigerian government and the United States government. But hey, intelligence reports are still coming. China also wants to be part of the process. The accusations that China is one of the countries that is really arming these guys because they are into a lot of drilling activities in Nigeria. Well, that is left to be ascertained. Nigeria and China have a very good trade relationship. Yes, very good trade relationship. But there are fears that China may actually be involved in some of this imbroglios. And you already know that the Sahel region, especially Niger, Burkina Faso, Mali, they've emancipated themselves from France. They do not want to have anything to do with France. And there are talks that Nigeria is being used as a hedge post to supposedly monitor activities in those regions and possibly have more access or more control. France has distanced themselves actually by not literally commenting or displaying a form of partnership with the Nigerian government in providing military assistance. Aside from what we had the Nigerian government tell us about the tax reform policy and the fact that France will be a major front for digital support, that is, provide digital tech for the tax reform that is to commence from next year. But I want us to take a very close listen to this very important analysis from Adamubi Garuba. You know, he follows these international policies so well. And he's literally giving his own update on what he thinks about what's going on. I want us to really take a brief listen to him because he said something that is quite major and quite important for us to have a grasp on. And it's imperative that we have a better understanding of what's going on. Sheik Gunmi too is being criticized heavily for his statement. That is the statement he made concerning the fact that the United States is not a friend of Nigeria and that the Nigerian government should not pay any attention to what the US is doing. Literally, Sheik Gunmi is saying, exculpate yourself from whatever it is, whatever relationship you have with America, and trying to supposedly divert attention or divert the narrative by saying that how can you trust an American government that supposedly supported Biafra? You know, and it's worrisome because what we know about the Biafran war was the US was not part of it. They only provided assistance for healthcare and food through the Red Cross. The British government supported the Nigerian government. So the US, obviously, they did the coverage of what was going on. They gave their own report. But what they tried to provide assistance with was with food and other resources for victims who were heavily affected. Obviously, while Biafra was trying to establish relationship with other foreign nationals to support their ideology to emancipate themselves from Nigeria, one of their strong potential allies at the time was Russia. But Russia wanted to see which of them, which either the Nigerian government or the Biafran government was going to have an upper hand. And to be honest with you, they were beginning to get that response from other international communities. To be honest with you, they were beginning to get it. But obviously, things have dragged on for too long. A lot of lives were lost, especially the lives of the Southeasterners. Anyway, let's take a listen to Adamo Garba so we can have a proper context on this conversation. And I'm also going to be calling Mr. Elvis Elimihele. Mr. Elvis Elimihele is a political national social affairs commentator. Mr. Elvis will be giving us his own insight into what he thinks about the latest development. The federal government being called upon to actually invite Sheik Gumi for questioning because he seems to be acting like he's sympathizing with this terrorists. Sheik Gumi still believes that there should be a non-kinetic approach with these guys. That is, Sheikh believes that negotiations should be done with these terrorists and that they should not be aggravated to continue causing mayhem and manslaughter. Sheikh believes that the best approach to handle these guys is to orientate them in and de-radicalize them and bring them into the society. And it's funny because Sheikh son is actually in the Nigerian army. So when you see him showing some sort of sympathy or support for these individuals, it's very worrisome. He keeps talking, and unfortunately, there are some aspects of the North that they're very easy to, well, I say, diabolically twist their brains or twist the narrative of what is currently going on. But there are reports of that bombshells or artilleries were found in other locations beyond Sokoto State. 6 communities were actually affected. We saw rubbles, and if you check Estate Media, you see a shot where I posted where debris was checked. Farmers even saw unexploded shells, that is missiles that had not yet, exploded. Although we didn't hear of any casualty or on any civilian environment, it was basically the fact that the hotspots of the terrorists were the target. So listen to that, Garba, and let's make sense of what he's saying.
The United States strike against target in Sokoto State was largely symbolic to the United States. Because, the US president is struggling very hard to recover his Christian evangelical voters back home, because they manipulated the decision of the evangelical voters to support Netanyahu's genocide against people in Gaza. And eventually, the evangelicals became so angry that they were not known, that they were deceived into supporting an open genocide against innocent children. And that is why they are technically somehow withdrawing silently their support for the MAGA movement. So the only way the MAGA movement can show its support for the Christian crusade globally is to target places where they can now name a Christian operations. And that is why they did that on the Christmas day. You know what happened during the Banga, right? On the 25th, on the night of the 25th day of Christmas, when you now be throwing out knockout and bangas all over the street. So that is exactly what the US president did for his evangelical supporters at home in the US. So it's largely for the benefit of his people at home than on the benefit of Nigerians. However, it has some positive outcomes in Nigeria, because so far what is reported on the media is about the attack in Jabo village at Tamboa local government. That wasn't the only place where they struck. They actually struck Al-Wariye village in Tangaza local government and Al-Qasim village in Tangaza local government. And these are credible Lakurawa hideout. So the chances that they hit and destroy these Lakurawa terrorists is also very, very high. This is also a positive development for Nigeria. So however you want to look at it, do not sensationalize it. do not put this as a religion. Just look at the net win. While Trump is winning his political support base at home, we have also won some significant progress in terms of eliminating some terrorists here at home. So we should take the side of the victory, not the side of pessimism. However, this does not stop the fact that this is the first in the history of Nigeria. That since the 1960s, there was never any foreign military attack on our soil except this time. So it is very important that our government work hard to stop any military operation that was going to extend beyond attacking a common enemy, which is the terrorists. We have to establish a clear boundary, a clear framework, and a clear operational procedure that will limit all these attacks towards the terrorists. Also, the collaboration with the Nigerian government is good, but that will not change the plan of the US. If, let's assume that the Nigerian government refuse to allow them to do the strike, do you think they will stop not doing the strike? They will do that because they already have responsibility to protect as enshrined in the United Nations Global Convention on Terrorism. So they can still be able to carry out their strike. But it is very important that there is a collaboration with Nigeria. That is one of the good things that we have recommended from the beginning, that the US will do the strike regardless whether Nigeria wants it or not. But it pays Nigeria to collaborate with them so that you can direct them towards a critical area of operations where it will have impact. And I believe that is what the Nigerian government did by routing them towards the critical target of Lakurawas, and they hit the Lakurawa target in the area of Alwariya village and Al-Kazim village in Tangaza local government, in addition to the attack that fell on the farmland in Jabo village at Tambuwal local government. So the attack could be symbolic for the US, but it has some positive outcomes for Nigeria. So therefore, let's look into the positive side and then also stop worrying about the pessimism. A terror is a terror, and terror should not be allowed.
You heard Adamu Bigarba. He is actually a security analyst, and he has actually been giving us update on happenings like this ever since we heard about the U.S. proposed plan to create chaos for terrorists in Nigeria, where they talked about the fact that there was a major Christian persecution, and that's not the only thing as well. Other areas affected included the fact that communities were being decimated. There was desolation in most areas and locations predominantly occupied by Christians, especially Christian practicing communities in the north and north central. So that's basically what drew the ire of the American government. And they said, no, we need to be precise. But a couple of persons have tried to look at the political angle of things. There talks that the US doesn't just decide to assist you. There's always something politically involved. So you heard what Adamu Garba said, that Trump is trying to save face. His support for Benjamin Netanyahu on the war against humanity, specifically on the onslaught of Israel against Palestine, when there were talks from across the globe that Israel should stop its onslaught on innocent civilians and innocent citizens, children, and stop the desolation of so many communities and homes in Palestine, that the US provided support to Israel. So despite all the global outcry, the US decided to stay on. I mean, Israel is part of NATO, right? And they have their G5 countries, most powerful countries. Obviously, the US will always stand support with Israel. If you recall, when Trump came the first time, that's the first time when Trump was the president of the United States of America. That was when he raised up the wall and created a barricade, a wall between the US and Mexico, if you remember very closely. If you also remember where he declared Jerusalem, and that Jerusalem was part of Israel and supposedly turned the capital of Israel. You know that historical and holy site has been a matter of concern, or is a country or a location of conflict between Palestine and Israel. So there's Al-Qaeda, Hamas, Hezbollah. These guys obviously have the international sponsors resident in Syria, Iran. These are countries that have been set to sponsor these individuals vehemently. Their financial base, basically Iran, Syria, Afghanistan. These are the areas that have the money bag sponsoring these individuals. ISWAP is the branch of ISIS that is resident in West Africa, Nigeria to be precise. So again, the conversation is quite dire. But the question is, how did the Nigerian government allow these terrorist cells to become more than what they were? How did the Nigerian government tolerate these terrorist activities in the country for 8 years of Muhammadu Buhari's administration that they morphed into other cells, spread themselves and spread their tentacles across every region of the country? They were like sleeping dogs waiting for somebody to alert them and for them to launch attacks across. We're seeing Benue State completely taken over by these guys, Kwara, Kebbi, Kogi, and not just taken over by their communities. You can't ply those highways. You can't ply those routes without getting kidnapped. So we'll try to speak with Mr. Elvis Elimele to provide us insight and details. It's important and imperative that we have an absolute detailed information in precise term on what is currently going on. How will this affect Nigeria's relationship with the US going on? How will this affect Tinubu's relationship with the North? Because obviously his attention has been focused on trying to get more northern support ahead of 2027. Sheik Gunmi has literally supposedly hinted that their aim, if Tinubu doesn't stop his association with the terrorists, would be that they would not grant Tinubu support ahead of 2027. Nigerians advise the president not to be concerned with that. His prerogative should be to attend to the effort of focusing on protecting the lives of Nigerians and their properties, and not make any form of political concentration on this. That the Nigerian government needed to understand the importance of securing the lives and property of Nigerians, not just looking at certain regions because of their population ahead of 2027. Again, like I told you, the conversation is quite imperative to be had. Tinubu had been advised on all quarters to not relent in his relationship and partnership with the United States of America until they are able to utilize this relationship in decimating this terrorist. We saw some communities on social media running helter-skelter. They say the terrorists are now coming out full force against these communities because they feel that if the US government will not allow them find solace and continue taking reigning control and terrorizing these communities, well, it's like we wouldn't go down alone. We'll go down with people. We'll go down with innocent people. And it didn't stop them. They continued their onslaught unabated. So I will try to contact Mr. Elvis Elimele so that we will have a true in-depth conversation into what we're meant to have concerning this. Mr. Elvis will provide us that information and that insight needed. My perception may be quite different from his, but there are talks that the necessary action that needs to be taken should be taken soon. Otherwise, it will spell doom for Nigeria. Mr. Elvis Elimele, good evening. Thank you for staying up because I know it's quite late. It's 11:27 p.m. right about now. Can you hear me?
I can hear you very well, sir. Good evening.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Elvis. So there is a situation already on ground. More U.S. mappings are taking place. There are expected more airstrikes, into Nigeria, especially at the hotbed. Ali Gunmi, former Senate Chief Whip, has asked the Nigerian government to threefold its effort with the United States of America to rain more onslaught on hotbeds. Zamfara, Borno, Kebbi, these are the areas where these individuals are resident at this time, that they don't want any soft target. They want them to be brutal and swift. We've heard that some communities are running helter-skelter for fear that these guys will come out to retaliate because of what is currently going on. There is also the political angle to things that Sheik Gunmi kind of made a slight threat that by advising Tinubu not to continue his partnership, by dissolving his partnership with the United States of America, by hinting that he cannot trust them because the US supported Biafra during the Civil War, which obviously made a lot of persons go back in time to research history, that in what universe did that happen and how did that ever take place, that the US provided assistance to enable the affront of Biafra during the 1967 Civil War. And they are talking about the fact that Sheik Gunmi is posing emphatically as a terrorist sympathizer. And while the government seems to be afraid to invite this guy for questioning, for brazenly going to several outlets and expressing his disgruntled that the United States of America is partnering with Nigeria to eviscerate this terrorist. How would you analyze what is currently going on? And do we see more precise extracts on some hotbeds or hot zones across, these terrorist reading states?
Yes, the issue here is multifaceted issues because we have seen the first strike and we are hopeful that more will come. And I support Ali Ndume. You know, Ali Ndume is from the Goza part of Borno State. If you know Goza, for the past 16 years, they've never known peace since the advent of Boko Haram in this nation. And I mean, for him to be calling for more of this strike, I can understand with him. But for those that are actually afraid that there may be reprisal attack, let me tell you, Esther, this one is not Nigeria Armed Forces. So this is the military armed forces coming in to assist Nigeria to flush out these guys. The whatever reprisal attack they may be planning, they may not even have time to start executing it before the next strike will come. We were told that this first strike now affected 16 camps. You know the number of terrorists that are in those 16 camps, even if they are just two persons. We're talking of almost about 32, which I know that there are numerous number in each of these camps. You know, each camp is like a government of itself. A camp has everything that Nigeria government has. It has administrators, those that plan all these things for them. It also has these logistics for their movement, their arms and ammunition, their food, the drugs they take that made them to become wild when they enter any society, any village or whatever. So even their medical personnel that treat them when they get injured, they are in these camps. And you know that most of these camps are like a route where they are connected to routes externally, I know, beyond Nigeria border, where some of these things come directly to them. All these their logistics, all what they need comes in directly. So my fear about reprisal attack is very minimal because I know by now they themselves are even more on the run. They are in disarray. That's just it. They are on the run for their head. So there may be little of soft targets, just to terrorists. They don't want to give up. They just want to still register their presence. But before that, we want to take place. I think the next strike will come, and the next strike we don't even know which part of Nigeria is going to happen.
Well, there are talks that the site are still, but the areas where the helicopter is trapezing is still along Sokoto. There are talks Borno, Kebbi, Zamfara states, specifically the hotbeds, the hot zones. But you know that today an unspecified number of travelers were killed. There was a suspected bomb explosion along the Yartasha Dansadao Way in Maru local government area of Zamfara state this afternoon. The public relations officer confirmed the unfortunate incident that occurred this afternoon. The incident occurred and there were no details at the time it occurred, but we've heard that some persons died from that explosion. Residents said the bomb may have been planted by the terrorists themselves or bandits who have been causing mayhem across the state. The travelers could be seen in panic while they were running away, running helter-skelter because they could not precisely pinpoint if it was just a bomb planted somewhere or if those guys had surrounded the vicinity. And this is coming amidst what just transpired on the 25th around possibly 2 a.m. when the airstrikes from the US government into some enclaves in Nigeria occurred. So again, this is basically what drew the attention of Nigerians to the fact that could it be that these guys would want to supposedly retaliate on innocent Nigerians because they were smoking them out?
Yeah, there could be plan for such reprisal attack, on innocent Nigerians. But that's also where Esther will have to be talking of Nigeria armed forces, as the US is coming to assist us in attacking them on air now with missiles. The Nigerian armed forces should also cash in on this kind of opportunity to make sure that they are on ground to, pursue them, because when this strike comes, these guys are also on the run. Sometimes they might start losing their plans and their logistics. So Nigerian armed forces, if they actually say they are part of the plans and that they were involved in it, they also have to start mapping out their local, marshal out their local plans to make sure that they follow up, closely. Like what you just said now from Zamfara State. Yeah, they can be planting some of these IEDs, along some routes.
Mr. Elvis, the United States of America was not present. They were not in this country. The missiles were from the Gulf of Guinea, and it located certain axes. It located areas. Some people would say it landed on a wasteland or dry land, but it didn't have any effect. It did. We even in Kwara, we saw some farmers who said they saw, some shells, one of the missiles that did not explode, embedded into one of the farms. What I'm trying to say was that when the coup in Benin Republic happened, the Nigerian government was swift and precise. According to them, they said there was an SOS. And to restore democracy, 2 Nigerian fighter jets flew out of this country to restore normalcy. We did not hear any casualty figure. They literally went immediately, and through their reconnaissance and mapping, they were precise. So are we saying that there is a complete ineptitude with our Air Force and our ground troops in repelling these guys? Mr. Elvis, for the past 10 years, huge budgets have been made to the Nigerian military, to the Nigerian defense, to our marine, to curbing security. You need to see the weapons we buy from Russia, from US, even from China, including Brazil. These are countries that have supposedly good military artillery that we purchase weapons from. So how come the US, after doing some mapping since the 24th, before the 24th, immediately the Ministry of Defense in the United States of America met with Nuhu Ribadu, they began mapping the areas. And you saw what transpired on the 25th of December. Now, regardless of the politics behind it, the thing is, why can't, with all the money that we have, the military intelligence, the weapons, the artillery, we cannot independently rout out these guys? It is now that the US is doing something that we're beginning to see conversation from all quarters. Northern elites, northern politicians, northern influencers who usually remain quiet when we hear these terrorists decimate communities are now speaking up. Some are saying, okay, we support you, and some are saying, please, let's be careful. How do you curry carefulness with terrorists, Mr. Elvis?
Esther, the simple matter here is that Nigeria, till now, before now, were only pretending that they were fighting terrorism. They were not fighting it. All those things you mentioned, yes, they've been having very fat budget. This budget, how much of it actually get to fighting terrorism in this nation over the years? It's in the hands of you. Because the same people that hijack the budget are the same people that are sponsors of this Boko Haram terrorism. So they will not allow the necessary things to get to these boys on the field to fight this terrorism, because it has become a kind of marketer activities in Nigeria. People are benefiting 100%. People are using it to make money, and those people will not turn around to begin to fight their means of livelihood. That is why you see every effort that has been made over the years have never worked. And these are the same people who have also planted moles into the Nigerian armed forces who are sympathizers of this Boko Haram, who divulge information to terrorists, whatever plan Nigeria Armed Forces is planning, they release this message to them, and you see all the ambush that has been happening. Nigeria have been losing hundreds of soldiers in these ambushes that have been happening to Nigeria Armed Forces, because the people who pretend to be fighting this terrorism are the same people we are looking onto as same people that release this money, but they share this money, and this money never gets to the real fighters, the new fighters. Unfortunately, we saw when one of the theater commander one time, some time ago, told Nigeria government to give him arms to fight the terrorists. What happened? He was court-martialed and was retired abruptly. You know how that matter ended?
Yes.
You know, civil society have to come in, and before they now, retire him and take him out of dismissal. So many of his boys who also went along with him in that protest then got the same punishment. So when you see all this that have been happening over the years, you will now know too well that it has always been that the person who stole your property was pretending to be looking for it, assisting you to look for it. Late General Muhammadu Buhari told Nigerians that he was going to end insurgency in this nation within 6 months in 2015 when he was coming in. Unfortunately, it stayed 8 years. If insurgency became festered, and even apart from the Boko Haram we only known of 2014 before he came in, he brought in banditry. So everything you have seen over the years, Esther, were just mere pretense. It is only now that searchlight is being beamed into this fighting this terrorism, because America has come in and some Western allied forces are supporting that. This is the only time, and that's what you are seeing now in the northern part of Nigeria, that you see people protesting now, releasing different statements, condemning the act and all that, because
all right,
their means of livelihood is about to be taken away from them.
Yeah.
So except this government sits in a very forceful form, that is the only way we can get to the end of this terrorism. This government must not betray American government and other allied forces that want to assist us to fight this terrorism. If they say they are actually part of this strike, they must demonstrate it in total by supporting this foreign government to make sure we get to the roots.
Yes. All right, Mr. Elvis, according to what Mr. Elvis, based on what the Nigerian Army said, that's the Joint Task Force East Operation had in Kai, they said that their troops have killed about 438 Boko Haram and ISWAP fighters in the last 7 months amidst intensified counter-terrorism operations in Borno State. But a couple of reactions have emanated from this report by saying where and how they didn't display the bodies of these individuals, if indeed that's the truth. More of the reports that we're seeing on social media were these guys flaunting their overwhelming appearance on military bases stationed across the hotbed, or how they were in a defense and retaliatory effort fight with the Nigerian military, that is the Nigerian ground troops, and how it feels like they enforced themselves, brutalized them, or supposedly overtook them, because they usually come in large numbers. So how does one analyze, or would I say orientate their mindset with the revelation by the Nigerian military that's a Joint Task Force Northeast Operation, that it killed about 438 Boko Haram members? How does one believe that particular result?
Those are the big questions, Esther, because we hear the military coming to brief the press and say they've neutralized social number. If actually these numbers they are peddling are actually true, you will know too well that at least they will have gone far. But unfortunately, some of these things are not actually true. I'm not condemning what they are doing, because I've actually seen that they have suffered a lot of casualty on the hands of these terrorists. They've suffered a lot, but the most annoying one, Esther, is the one they say 800 and something has surrendered.
Yeah.
Those ones that they tell Nigerians that they surrendered are actually informants. These people never surrender. Terrorists are very difficult to actually overcome. They don't, when they come to deceive Nigeria armed forces that they have surrendered, unfortunately, we don't even have the wherewithal to actually make them, peg them and make them like, oh, we mark them down and be able to trace their activities. If you tell an American government that you have surrendered, you are no more a terrorist, they mark you down all through your life, they track whatever you are doing, that they know any day you are trying to go back to where you are coming from, they hack you down. But unfortunately, these people just come and tell us they surrender, we release them to the society, and again after that they began to release me upon the same people that they told they surrendered to. So some of these things has never worked, and it has never helped the Nigerian armed forces. Genuinely, now the only thing we should be preaching now is Nigeria government must, in total surrender to truth and transparency with this foreign government that are coming to assist us. They must not give this foreign government back door like they gave us for the past 16 years, telling us lies, because that we amount to counter-terrorism, that we amount to failure. And these people are not coming in, they are releasing missiles, from the African base. It's this come from African base in the Gulf. That's where these missiles are coming from. But even if these missiles are coming from the air, that these missiles are expensive. Even if they are not losing anybody, they are spending money, they are spending time. The reconnaissance service you see, the flights that goes around, these are money that is not being spent to assist Nigeria. So if Nigeria go the other way to betray this opportunity, we might end up becoming like Afghanistan or Somalia, because this will be the last opportunity we may have now to fight this terrorism. We quite see now that they have actually been overrunning Nigeria armed forces for some time now.
All right, but Mr. Elvis, in regards to Sheik Gunmi, Mr. Elvis, he's been emphatically making remarks, coming on social media and criticizing the Nigerian government's partnership with the US. His approach has always been dialogue with these guys, break down the social constriction or the walls that have made them not to get educated, that it is poverty and lack of education that makes them get into these vices. Or he would tell you that it is preferable that the children were kidnapped than for the terrorists to kill the soldiers. That is, if the children are with the terrorists, they are safer. But if they are with, if it happens to be a Nigerian military soldier who is a ground troop that they unfortunately caught, that is more devastating because they kill. So he feels it's a safe bet, because that way, if the government hears about the fact that they abducted kids, there is more room for negotiation to ensure the safety of the children. So Sheik was kind of saying that is kind of approach that's better. Talk to them, reorientate them, saturate their mindset with a different orientation beyond what they have. And they're asking questions. Why has this man not been arrested? Why has he not been called in for questioning? What brazenness is this is using to disclose all of this at this sensitive time? That all Nigerians are trying to talk about the fact that any help from whatever is needed to combat insecurity in the country. Also blaming Biafra and the US. Please, Mr. Elvis, in what way was the United States of America supported Biafra, or how did they support Biafra during the Civil War beyond providing medical and and food supplies?
You see, everything about Sheik Gunmi in Nigeria is just a failure of Nigeria government to actually do the needful. I cannot even imagine if Nigeria government is actually sincere in what all this we are saying, for them to be spending this money losing trained Nigeria armed forces to these terrorists, and somebody is coming to speak ills of Nigeria government and being a sympathizer or an apologist to the same terrorists that have almost grounded this nation. And that's why sometimes I wonder why should an individual, bolder and bigger than the government of a nation. It still baffles my imagination, Esther, that throughout the 8 years of former President Buhari, this man was talking. And again, I started talking for this 2 years and 6 months of President Tinubu's administration. Is it that this man is bigger than Nigeria government to actually be tried or be asked for, be brought in for questioning? This same person, we saw that even when he went for Hajj in Saudi Arabia, he was returned back. They don't allow him to know, which means Saudi Arabia actually knew so well that what this man is preaching in Nigeria is preaching terrorism and is preaching devastation, to raise mayhem against the country. If Saudi Arabia can repatriate this man and say, no, you are not fit to come to this holy land for pilgrimage, then Nigeria government is pampering such person. This is one of the failure of this government that brought us to this level we are now. The same thing is what led to now America now saw our needs, our cries and our agony for them to come here. I don't know why the Nigeria government is actually spraying deodorant on this man instead of them to actually spray insecticide to pick up this man and try him as expected. Then coming to people now trying to politicize it and trying to make it like an ethnicity thing. Esther, it is not. It has always been the usual in Nigeria. Yes. America supported Biafra. Are we talking about Biafra now? This is Biafra that ended over 50 years now. It's 1970. So are we still talking about that now, or we are talking about the present happenings that we cannot manage? Yes, even if America assisted Biafra then, the malnutrition that came into the Biafra area during the Civil War, they could help with drug, they could help with nutrients for the children that were just fitting or circumstance in that war. I've not read that America supplied arms to the Biafra government. I've read so many books about the Biafra, the Nigeria Biafra war, Civil War, Nigeria Civil War, but I've not read so much about America supporting the Biafra government there. So whoever is trying to turn it into ethnicity now, it is normal way that we used to downplay issues in this nation that have led us to where we are now. And who are the people that are doing this? These are the same people we are talking about that are sponsors of this terrorism. So they want to shift the attention of people, away from what we are seeing as, God has sent to help us, so that we cannot become like attack dogs to ourselves. And you know what that will mean? By the time we start attacking ourselves now, the purpose of this assistance from this foreign government will get it in, and it will not be jeopardized, because that will also now lead to civil war. It will lead to crisis. By the time we now turn into something that we now begin to fight ourselves, and these terrorists will now capitalize on that. That's what they just want to create now. They want to foment trouble that will cause internal strife within this nation, and that operation will engulf this nation completely, because at that time these people can be on air assisting us to neutralize the terrorists, and we are now fighting ourselves internally. The purpose will be defeated. So Nigeria government should make haste in picking up these people who want to turn this matter to trivialities, or they want to use it to foment trouble, much more trouble for Nigerians than what we are going through now. These people must be brought to book immediately. Let the international community also hear that whatever the assistance they are giving us, that we also reciprocate it locally by picking up these moles, these sponsors of these terrorists, these sympathizers and apologists of these terrorists. We should begin to pick them. The Nigeria government should step up advocacy. Not that like this Christmas Day strike, it was Donald Trump that released it.
You're very right. There were talks that the Nigerian government ought to have been the first to announce it, being that it happened in their own home country. But we heard it from Truth Social via Trump's handle.
Yes, if really that we are part of this, Nigeria government must be able to carry Nigerians along. Before any foreign country could say, oh, we are part of it, Nigerian government should be able to tell us, oh, this is what we have just done in collaboration. Exactly. Then before any other person now start taking the glory, let it not be that this government, Nigeria government, have been hijacked by another foreign government. We are a sovereign country. It is our failure that led to this. The most popular black nation in the world, cannot secure itself. Is it not a failure?
It is, Mr. Elvis.
Actually, but we are putting that behind us. So going further, if this strike is going to continue, Nigeria government must be able to issue statement as quickly as possible. We have just done this. We have already told you we are in collaboration with so, and this is what we have just done. Not that Trump will not be the one that will put it in his social media handle for us to now read
of how it happened.
when the residents of the country that was assisted, the country cannot issue a statement. Will it tag along after Trump have released his own statement? It is not healthy. This is supposed to be a nation with a functional executive. We still have Minister of Information in this nation. We still have all the presidential aid. Where are the boilers of this world, that make noise, that John Kett ran the globe that day, telling the world that there was no
they're not responding. I mean, there is even a mock at Bayo Onanuga for saying that saying that they would never forgive Peter Obi for being hailing the move by the US to invade and decimate the terrorists. The same Bayo Onanuga wrote a tweet thanking the United States of America's government for assisting them in fighting terrorism. So one would wonder what's going on.
Yeah, those are the things I'm saying now, Esther, that even the government itself have to make sure that they educate their spokespersons, because this is a very fragile period in this nation. As we don't know where this matter will end yet. Exactly. We've only seen the beginning, Esther. We don't know how the ending is going to be. And I'm telling you that the ending might not be the way most of us expect it. So if we don't manage it well. So every statement on this matter that is coming out from the presidency must be carefully managed, because in this part of the world, is the statement that comes out first, people pick.
Yes.
Is that what people pick and run with it? So every other counter it doesn't enter Nigerians' ears. So that's why everything that is being released now, the president is just on a holiday. This is not the time for holidays. This is the time for to roll up his sleeves and tell Nigerians that actually you voted me for the next 4 years for me to be part of you, to assist in solving all these problems. It's not the time of holidays and time of This is time to really be serious with governance, because what we are seeing now is not just ordinary. But for the government to allow moles to now begin to talk for the government, exactly. People like Sheik Gunmi now talking for the government, it's an aberration. What is his position in this government? That he is not the one that will be telling Nigeria, why did you go to America? Why not Pakistan? Why not China? Why not? What concerns him? Is he one of the policy for policy makers of this country that should not be dictating for Nigerians Nigeria government to where to go and get help to curb this terrorism?
Well, you're very right, Mr. Elvis. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, Mr. Elvis. Thank you so much. I know that you ought to be in bed, as we are thanking God for the gift of life this season. I sincerely do appreciate you. And this conversation is not done with. We'll definitely continue it.
Thank you, Esther. This is just, at a time like this, Esther, I read so much about the Civil War, and I know the role people like the late what's his name now, who was Minister for Biafra all that time, the role they played. No, this man that became a senator is late now, from Abia State. He was the minister forgotten his name now. I know the role they played in making sure that even as fragile as things were difficult with Biafra then, they were managing it up, because they needed to Chukwumerige. I'm trying to remember Chukwumerige. Okay. He was the Minister of Information for Biafra government. Chukwumerige. These people, no matter how devastating it was, to the Biafra then, they will come on air and paint it as if the Biafra has even taken over the federal government of Nigeria. And that will motivate those people on the field. So we need more of those kind of good policy makers and people that can address situation, squarely. Not this Bayo Onanuga, not this Boalas or this Bayo Onanuga. We need them now, because Nigerian armed forces need to be encouraged. Nigerians themselves need to be encouraged. So the government must not sleep. not the time to sleep. Esther, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Alves. Have yourself a wonderful night. Enjoy your sleep. It's Sunday tomorrow. All right. That was Mr. Elvis Elimihele joining us live. So we needed to talk about this. Like I said, we'll continue to update you right here on Estic Media. Kindly subscribe, like, and share. I would appreciate your comments. Definitely, a lot is going to be exposed. We are going to see a lot of necks rattled. We do hope that the years will remain consistent and true to assisting Nigeria to rout out these guys, and there'll be no politicizing of the whole thing. It will also be imperative for our northern brothers to embrace this concept, because we indeed need to fight these guys. We need to rout them out. They've held us so much. They've gripped into our economy. They've polarized the nation, and they have unequaled the economic base in this country. You are seeing basically Lagos and a couple of states economically viable. Most states are not economically viable. Why? Insecurity. Insecurity. So people need to be in areas where there are job opportunities, there are housing accommodation. They can literally just have proximity from where they reside to work, go to work. Which state has such bubbling tenacity impulsions? It's basically Lagos. Most of the states are already ridden by the onslaught of this terrorist. Precise and decisive action needs to be taken. And I hope the president is not cowed by anybody who wants to gaslight him just because he needs their support for 2027. This will speak well for him. This will cover the mouth of his enemies in shame, hopefully, if he's astute with it, like literally. All right, make sure you subscribe, like I said earlier. Comment. I would like to know your perception or your thoughts on what was discussed right here. Do have yourself a wonderful evening. Compliment of the season.